You know when people ask you if they can give you a hand and how you politely thank them, and then you tell them you're okay, you can do it yourself, it's all right. And when you see someone struggling and you offer a hand, but then they tell you it's okay, they've got it, but you know that they don't. We find it so hard to receive help or to ask for help. Yet we eagerly offer to help and we want to help. The altruistic nature is something we all engage with, yet we have this trouble with accepting. How about when someone offers you a compliment? How do you accept it? How do you respond? I know that I've said such things as, oh, this old thing? Oh, I've had it for years. Or how about, well, I really need a haircut. This hair is just getting so unruly. After I've said those things and people have already offered me the compliment, in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, why in the world did I respond the way I did? And what has that meant to the other person who was trying to give me that compliment? I just put down their noticing and I took away the joy in what they'd seen. Let's move that forward to compassionate living and wanting to help others in need. Today, Charlene and I will be looking at the responses that have happened in British Columbia with the forest fires, the evacuations, the outreach of neighbors, the first responders, unending support, and those frontline firefighters who've given everything to save the land, the animals, the families, the homes, and the businesses. We hope you'll be looking at your response, your expectation, and your desire to help others, and consider your best approach, response, and outreach in regards to the topic. So for those interested in learning more about the Moyle family and how they're doing, Charlene has an update on Peter's health, the family's start at school, and the fundraising opportunities that the Mission for Change community has had in just a few short weeks. You're listening to Be Well with Michelle Greenwell. This is sponsored by the Cape Breton Tea Company as well as Dance Debut Inc. Hello, Charlene. Thank you for coming back to share this next episode.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me again. And it's almost fitting. And I was just I heard you saying that, I was thinking that really we're just having this conversation the day after the anniversary of 9/11, which was probably, I mean, certainly North America's largest first responder response ever. And so many lives lost, but so many lives saved through the efforts of first responders. And I heard an interesting statistic yesterday, I think, or today, that was there's been almost as many lives lost of first responders from that event since 9/11, I think out by one or two numbers, as there was actually on, like, at the time of the response, like at the time of 9/11. So people who've lost their lives from cancer or other illnesses as a result of the exposure to the toxins that happened from 9/11. And so they gave their lives then, and they've continued to give their lives because of what they did. But we've also seen, I think, so much change and giving and things that have happened since that time around the world, and what people have done differently because of that event. Some good, some bad, but I think a lot of good. That people care about people in a different way because of that event, and people care about first responders differently because of that event.
Mm-hmm.
That we notice them, and here in West Kelowna, where we are still dealing with the aftermath of the McDougall Creek fire, there's still some people who haven't returned to their homes yet, almost a month later, and there's over 200 families that lost their homes. It was more than 200 properties that were lost. They've started to sell these T-shirts that I think they said that initially they were going to sell 200 and then maybe 300 of them, and it sounds like the order's now over 5,000. Because people want to do something. They want to show that they appreciate the firefighters, and it's a fundraiser that's I think created by the firefighters or some kind of a team related to the firefighters. And I guess it's the same screen printer who created a similar, image and look of these T-shirts after the 2003 uh, Kelowna Mountain Fire that happened on the other side of Kelowna, almost exactly 20 years before this fire, and when over 200 homes were lost then. And so it's really struck a chord in people, and they want to feel like they're part of it, that they're part of the community of helping, right? That they're connected, and that's one way that they're doing it is buying the T-shirts. The funny thing is, some of the people in West Kelowna are saying, "How do we buy one here?" Because they're all for sale in Kelowna, and we can't find them in West Kelowna. It's just a matter of crossing a bridge to get to them, which is funny too.
There's always that bridge in the way.
So it's an interesting phenomena about who is my community, where's my community, and the sense of belonging, and the sense of how do I help and how do I participate. There's lots of ways that we've seen people participating, everything from saying, I've got a bed where people can sleep, which is so funny because in a normal situation, it's not like you would simply go out on the street and say, "Oh, you need a bed? I've got one." But
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden there's a crisis and people are just, someone needs a bed, we've got a spare room, or we've got space. Someone needs a meal, we've got one. We'll make one. We'll bring you one. At some point, the first responders in the fire halls ended up saying, "Bless your hearts. We love your home cooking. It's been so great, but it's becoming a safety hazard. We've got so much love from you. We have to ask you to stop." And how ironic, how funny that the community wanted to help so bad, that they're seeing so how much work, the planes flying over, the helicopters flying over, the fire trucks, all of these crews flying in from as far away as South Africa to come help little old West Kelowna put out this massive fire and save people's homes and businesses and community. That there's such an outpouring of cookies and casserole dishes and soups and salads and all of these things coming into the fire halls, that it's now a safety hazard because there's too much. There's too much coming in. There's too much food. They couldn't even keep the food cold enough and protected enough long enough for everything, that they finally had to say, just have the kids make some signs and wave at us, you know
Yeah.
which people were doing too. I mean, there's signs on rooftops, there's massive posters, that people are putting up on top of their houses and on the roadways, so that the guys flying over can see them from above. People are lining up, so when guys are changing crews, there's kids standing and waving with posters, and there's cards and letters going into the fire hall. I mean, there's a huge show of love. But it's just interesting to see, you know how people are struggling to say, we're here, we're part of the community, we want to be part of helping, we want to be part of the solution. How do we do it? Show us the way. What do we do? How can we be there and be part of it, make it happen?
Wow. It's just so amazing, because crisis can be around us, and somehow we can ignore it when we're okay. But when we're not okay, then we really find that spark within there. And so there is that piece of when I'm not okay, and that compassionate outreach. There's this fine line that tips the scale. And we don't think about it so much when there's a shortage of beds, or we've got the homeless, there's not enough food, because that's there all the time, and it doesn't always affect us. But then when something like this affects everyone, how that changes. And hopefully people are realizing how that's changed and just how you articulated it, and then how they would be able to hold on to that compassionate living to continue to support those people who may not get back to their homes or who have not had homes, and have been just trying to survive on the street. But hopefully then that same outpour can be transferred in a way that's going to help support those people as well.
Absolutely. And that's an interesting point because, after a few days of this crisis happening and people were out of their homes, an emergency was declared. We have an emergency. All of these people are out of their home. These people have lost their home. This is an emergency for the immediate locale and for the province.
Mm-hmm.
And that sends a message to the people who always don't have a home.
Mm-hmm.
They're not an emergency. They're not a crisis for the locale.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people who will say, well, they've chosen to not have a home. But have they chosen that? What life circumstances have put them there?
Mm-hmm.
And can we judge that?
And can we judge that? That's a key piece, right?
Because you hear a lot of the information now, and so many people are living paycheck to paycheck. So many people are dealing with the rising housing costs, are dealing with challenges in their work, changes in their work. We're seeing food prices go up. We're seeing housing prices go up. We're seeing a lot of people no longer able to find rental housing. And then maybe that's coupled with, a family breakup or something like that. And all of a sudden, where does someone go who can't find that rental accommodation, or maybe is struggling with a mental illness and can't find that treatment, whatever it might be, and they think this is just short term, that, oh, I have to stay in my car. And then it becomes chronic and it becomes long term. And now they're that person that they never thought they would be. When you stop and you talk to someone who's on the street and you find out they've finished high school, they have a college degree, or they worked as a tradesperson for years and years. They have a family. They have people. They've lost track of those people, or they were separated from those people. Something happened that put them there. And there's some people who make it back off of the streets, and you hear their story and you hear how they felt being ostracized, and it's huge. So maybe we should be declaring a public emergency for those people who are chronically on the street, and see what having that short-term emergency to deal with it does to make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is a different topic, and that's not the topic that we're necessarily here for. But it still goes back to the sense of community, and who are we looking at in our community, and why, and how can we help them? Because that's a community. Our people who have suffered in the fire are a community, and globally we also have people who are suffering that it's really easy to sort of put our blinders on and never look at because they're not in front of us. So just like the people who are on the streets aren't in front of us, or it's easy for them not to be in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
there's people around the world that it's easy not to be in front of us. And for me, that's people like the Moyo family, and specifically it is the Moyo family because they're representative of a lot of other people. There's someone that we can reach out and say, you know what, you are part of my community. God put you in my life for a reason, and you're someone that I'm able to help in a way that doesn't make it's not hard for me to do, because I can reach out to other people and say, here's someone we can step up and help and make a difference, and then in their community they can carry that on and reach out to others and show others, and it has a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a connection.
And I was thinking about that before, we were trying to bring together the topic we wanted to work on today. And I was thinking about how our outreach with the Moyo family affects their community. and the resources that we're able to bring to them. And some of it's not monetary resources, it's actually intellectual resource, things that we can find out for them that they can't reach or discover for themselves. To be able to provide them with those kinds of resources, that means the whole rest of the village is going to gain from the knowledge that we're able to share. And as we develop those kinds of skills ourselves, that's going to change many lives
Mhm.
in an area that so many people have just forgotten about. It's really just not, it's in the millions, and that's so hard for us to
Mhm.
comprehend.
Absolutely. And even when you look at education, educating the children in this family, which from a monetary point of view, it doesn't take a lot for us to help educate them. But David is so excited to be learning. He's 13 now, and he's jumped. He loves science. He loves learning. He loves looking at how do things work, And so he's jumped in with, well, I'm sort of the backup man in the family. His older brother is away at seminary school learning to be a pastor, and some people say, well, why that? Why not a trade or something like that? Because in their culture, learning to support people and their faith is huge. Learning how to lift people up and support them that way is huge. So Rajiv being at seminary school will help a lot of people. It will help the community in an immense way. So that role is huge and important, and that's following in his father's footsteps, Stephen, who's um, passed away. Um, David, the middle son, stepping up and learning science and technology and being so excited, he's taken on the role of looking after the gardens for the family and learning more about how the keyhole garden works, how the other gardens, what did the different vegetables need to be able to support them? How can he get the water to the gardens better? And he's taken on the role of teaching his cousins how to look after the gardens better. These are all kids looking after the garden that sustains a family of more than 15. You know, what kids who are 12 or 13 years old here could raise the food to feed a family? It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And this isn't with, turning on a tap on our house and getting water to water the garden. This is carrying water and bringing it there and figuring out what insects are invading the garden. What is it that's it's causing harm? How are we going to deal with the 40 Celsius temperatures that are burning everything in the garden? And and trying to overcome all of these things and making it work. And then he's decided now that to help the family, it would be best to raise birds. He's decided raising doves. He's built a bird house for the doves and will raise them as a source of protein. And he's teaching his cousin to do this alongside him, not through anybody else's initiative. This is his initiative. So he he sent this word to me through the adults that this is what he's going to do. It's like, wow, like what kids here would say. This is how I'm going to keep my family fed. He doesn't have a paying job. He's going to school, and he does this before school, after school, carrying the water, looking after whatever's needed for these things in order to try and keep them going and keep them from either not drying out, not burning out, not being destroyed by whatever else there may be in the environment that could harm these things, and seeing if he can make it all work. Just amazing. And that initiative and that knowledge spreads not only within his family, but that can spread to others. So incredibly inspiring.
Especially if there's I know they live not close to each other, so each family has its own area that it lives to even be sustainable. But when they go to school, to be able to exchange how my doves are doing, or how did I build my cage, or here's the seeds that we planted this time that are doing well. And just those little conversations that they're having at school that aren't even necessarily, here's how I can help you, but just in conversation, how that then weaves its way over to the next family to be able to say, they were trying that. What if I did that? Yeah.
And life isn't always totally serious. I mean, we always talk about, and I'm always talking about serious things. But I know before Stephen had sent me pictures of like David and other boys building go-karts, just like kids here would build go-karts
Mm-hmm.
and racing their go-karts down a hill, to see who built the faster go-kart,
Mm-hmm.
and like boys being boys.
Yeah.
So there, but still with David, it's still building,
Yeah.
you know. And so how do you make this work? And for them, I'd ask different questions, and they don't necessarily have the same materials and the same access to things here, but they greased the joints or whatever of the go-karts with, it was some kind of thing that you squished down and heated up from inside of some plant, and it was like, wow, like interesting.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have known that, wouldn't have done that here. But that made sort of a greasy tarry thing, but that was the lubrication stuff for the joints in the go-karts, whereas here it would have been something you ran to a Canadian Tire and picked up whatever. I don't know, I've never made a go-kart, but it's just interesting that was different, and then he'd sent me like a real short video of them pushing them down a hill, and the kids screaming and laughing and giggling, and just like kids would here. So it's not all just doom and gloom and this this fight for survival. That's absolutely their daily life. But the kids still, I mean, kids are kids. Kids will
And
still
there
find a
needs to be
way.
humor. They need to play.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. They play soccer. They love soccer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's beautiful.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so we dove straight in, and I always like to pull an affirmation card to help people find a way to find balance and flow as a result of listening to the podcast. And I think it's funny because I pulled it and I kind of chuckled, but now the way the conversation has gone, if I tell you what the card is, it'll make it even funnier. And this again is I just cut the deck. So for those people listening on the podcast, I have my card deck called the Affirmations for the Body and Biofield. So I'm holding up the card front, which has a ribbon of color on it, which represents mother and child. And so how we can nurture each other, how we support each other, and how we create community. So the card that I pulled is kind of like a butterfly. It has yellow on either side, kind of like wings, and then it has this amazing arrow that kind of runs right down the center. And there's two eyes almost on either side, kind of where the wings of the butterfly would be. It's not a butterfly, but that's what it looks like. So we've got yellow and black and white, so light. And the affirmation is, balance with this chakra transcends personal experience and expectation to assist all others. Compassion and action is necessary for personal growth. So I love that.
Perfect.
And so this represents what's known as the 9th chakra, which is our soul star. So this is our navigating for our purpose, our reason for being here, the things that we're involved in and why we're involved in them. And then that compassion and action is part of our personal growth and development. So that's the card that got pulled for today.
Wow.
The conversation definitely went through that. And so I'm hoping the audience, as they're listening, is starting to think about the ways in which they're creating a sense of community, the ways in which they respond to the help that comes their way, but also how they can respond to others who maybe say they don't need help, but they do need help in some ways, and you can gently provide that assistance in lots of creative ways.
Yeah, very interesting. That card should almost be like stapled to every bag of tea.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, that one's perfect.
And then the second part is we've been highlighting the T, Mission for Change Community. And do you want to, I know you had the package there. This hit the market here in Mabu Farmers Market, which is #1 in the province of Nova Scotia. And it was the
Awesome.
#1 seller at the market this last summer,
Oh, woohoo. Nice.
which was
Hey,
great.
Mabu.
And the money, the proceeds from that goes back to the Moyo family. So it was really lovely to see it winning in all the other teas, because we launched a couple of teas, and they did very well, but community was definitely the forerunner. So.
Oh, well, thank you, Mabu. We love you.
So with that,
So,
I wanted to share a couple things about the ingredients. So there's at least 15 ingredients in the package, and I've been trying to highlight a little bit about what those ingredients mean from the essence. What is the essence of the herb? Rather than how will it fix me? Because that's most people come and ask me, is this good for sleep? Is this good for calming me? Will this help me study? But what I wanted to look at was the relationship of the ingredients, because this lends itself to why you would want to have a package of tea sitting in your house, because it's going to help with this whole idea of building community and of outreach and support for compassionate living. So in our last episode, we did strawberry and peppermint, which to me was fascinating, because this was overcoming disappointment and discontent. So it's a great way, if we're not totally satisfied with where we're heading, strawberry and peppermint can help us graciously accept our situations and respond to different actions. And it also helps us with the compassion to enjoy the efforts that we've made and to be able to celebrate where we've gotten to. And I think people forget that too. If they've helped, if they were lucky enough to make a lasagna for the firefighters, and
yeah.
and get it down there, or a dozen cookies, or somebody's made a cake, sometimes we forget to just sit back a bit and say, hey, I did do that. I found the space and the time to help, and I did make a difference. So strawberry and peppermint help us to accept what we've done, but also to graciously reach out to others. So that we talked about last time. And in an episode that's going to follow after this episode, I expressed a little bit about lemon balm and chamomile. So I won't spend too much time on it, but I wanted to bring those combinations forward because they help us with supporting the releasing of fear and then helping others in need. So sometimes people are afraid to reach out. Sometimes people are just afraid, and then that paralyzes them. But when we have the confidence to make a shift or to think that we could make a difference, then lemon balm and chamomile are a great way for us to be empowered. And we don't think of chamomile that way because most people think about it as something they would take before going to bed.
Yeah, sleepy tea, yeah.
As a medicine. But if you take it out of its medicine box and bring it around into what it really means, it really transforms. So let's look at today hibiscus and rose. And a lot of people will say they love tea with hibiscus. There's something about the hibiscus. One, it's color, and two is the smell, usually. And then rose. Rose too, just, oh my gosh, it just fills the senses up when you're brewing tea.
I love the smell of.
Yeah, and I've been drying both here at the house for the last week, and it just smells heavenly in here. It's beautiful. So the hibiscus flower is all about the first and second chakra. For those people that understand chakras, that's the root chakra and the sacral chakra, which is how you feel grounded and centered, nurtured. Sacral chakra, that would be where the womb is. So to be held and to be supported, that's the kinds of feelings. Those are making sure that your needs are being met.
Right.
And the hibiscus flower allows us to feel that. So even if we haven't been feeling that, just being able to bring that in with the tea can transport us. And it can unblock lower back and spine. You get a lot of people who complain about backaches. Lower back is really sore or tension or tight. And in Tai Chi, we notice that it takes a long time for people to open that up.
Mm-hmm.
And so hibiscus helps us to release all that. And I just think that's so amazing. Then if you combine it with rose, rose is your passion to come forward, open your heart, open your mind, new ways of being, different way of maybe supporting other people. So if you bring hibiscus and rose together, you create a pathway for passion to come forward, for some creativity to happen, and then a sense of belonging. So there's 6 ingredients out of, I think there's 15 on the package. But you look at those ingredients and then you wonder why you might choose to drink something else in the day when you could be drinking something that just kind of lifts you
Yes,
up.
it does. It really does. Both whether you have it cold, like an iced tea, or if you have it warm. Since we're September now, I've shifted to warm, but
That's right. That's right.
I did enjoy it, cool all summer. It was
Yeah.
great.
And then the opportunity you can put it into ice cubes and you could just put it into water and you've just got a little bit of the flavor in there. Maybe you had a little bit of tea left over in the bottom of the pot. And then it could be warm water, but put that ice cube in and just watch the color kind of weave through, which is so beautiful. Yeah. All right, so with that, I'm just going to hold up this amazing golden elixir. It just looks so beautiful in the cup. And
Yeah, you can't see it in mine.
yeah, show us your mug though. It's so interesting.
Yeah, this one's a Japanese mug. Can you see it there?
Yeah,
And
beautiful
it
character.
actually, yeah. So I steeped it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This fits in, and it's got a little lid
Oh,
that
that's
keeps it
so.
warm for me. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And then it's white. So the other part is what I've really started to notice when I pay attention to the color of the tea, that also lifts me up.
Oh, yeah.
And usually we're not thinking about that. We just kind of put the tea into the mug and forget about it. But when you start to actually lock into the colors, those people that know the connection of color to mood or color to the chakras, color to the spine, which is where my dissertation took me, it's amazing what those colors can do. So cheers. And
Cheers.
also thank you to all those people who've supported so far with the tea and are helping us to
Absolutely.
make the difference. So yeah, and slunch
Absolutely.
is how we would say it as well here. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay.
So some of the things that the tea has supported for the Moyos at this point. Initially, we thought, oh, we'll just dive in and start building that house. Was where we had started with, but the needs are really great, and we always talk about with the family, with the Moyo family, is that life comes first, and they've had a lot of life crises. So there's been a lot of support to help those who've ended up in hospital. There's been malaria and tuberculosis, and most recently, Peter, the only adult male still living with the family, it has been diagnosed with diabetes. So he's spent the last about month and a half trying to get that in control in hospital. And he actually just came home on, it would have been Friday night or Saturday morning, our time. I'm not the time difference, not exactly sure, but hasn't been home for quite a long time trying to get that under control. So some of the proceeds from the tea helped with the medical costs for being away at the hospital, which was quite a distance from their home, and then helping to get him back home because there's quite a cost to get back home when you don't have any transportation yourself. So that was some of the costs. And then the children started school again on Monday. And so they needed some very basic notebooks and pens and pencils and that sort of thing. We haven't bought them any textbooks again in a while. They lost all of those in flooding and different things that happened, but that's something we could look at again, but we haven't put that on the high priority list yet. But they just started off with very basic school supplies, and we're very, very happy to be able to have that and to go back to school. They have to pay fees to be able to attend school, so they were able to go back to school, and that's a big thing.
Wow.
So they're very pleased with that. There's some of the girls who are in their teens now, and they're still going to school, and that can't be said for a lot of the girls of that age in Malawi and a lot of other countries in that area that are very very poor countries. A lot of the girls just aren't able to do that. One of the girls in the Moyo family that I end up chatting with, well, when some of the other adults have been sick, Grace, when I talked to her, she'd said, you know, she had to quit school when Stephen got sick and died. Then, as part of her responsibility to the family, she stopped going to school so that she could help look after the younger kids because they needed her to do that. And often for girls, it's an issue, you know, or that um, they menstruation and having their period becomes a roadblock for girls to be able to go to school because they don't have enough money to have sanitary supplies to be able to go to school and deal with that. So it's quite a significant issue for girls in particular to be able to continue to go to school, or when there isn't enough money in the really poverty-stricken areas, families have to make a decision that it's more important for the boys to go to school because the boys will have to support a family and they will need to have the education for the trade or for whatever it is, and that the girls often don't continue on, and we see that in the news and in all over the place. This isn't something specific about the Moyo family. I know Stephen and Maria made quite a commitment to their children way back that they would educate their children, if at all possible, long before I met them. That was their commitment to their children, and they continued to do that. Um, as like I said before I met them, all of their children were planned to go to school, and that was what they were doing. And so I've tried to continue that on, and now not only me but others with me are trying to continue that on. And these extended children of siblings who've passed away of Stephen and Peter, we're trying to see that they get educated if at all possible too. So carry that on. And some of the some of the girls, and it's almost all girls in the family, are so excited to be able to share their successes and to let us know that they've done well, or they're working hard. And and I've tried to emphasize, we're not, I'm not expecting that everyone comes home with all high marks. These are people who are struggling to get food and water and to get nutrition and to have just to live. So I don't want everyone to feel like, you know, don't come home if you don't have an A. I don't want anyone to feel like that. The fact that they're attending, they're doing their best, they're trying. That's what matters,
Yeah.
and that they're interested to go, that they're interested to learn, that they're wanting an education is what's important, and that's um, that's very motivating, and it's wonderful to see that they're looking forward to an education, they're interested to learn, they're coming up with ideas about what is it that they would want to do if they had an opportunity, and they're thinking about that concept of opportunity when a lot of them didn't really have any idea that they really had the freedom or the ability to think of opportunity before. So that's something that these, who would think of tea being something that could create opportunity for children and families who were feeling so hopeless.
Yeah.
So that's incredible, and that's something. you know, shout out to Mabu, you know,
Yes.
and it's something to share, that it's giving hope and it's giving opportunity. It's helping with education. It's helping with critical life-saving medical care and treatment. And bit by bit, we're getting towards the house. So I just recently chatted with Peter. Now that he's home, and he's going to gather information for me again about some of the specific costs for the the cement and some of the other materials that we need to get to the next stage, and the planning. And there's a family member that I'm going to be seeing if I can do a little bit of recruitment with back home for me, to see if I can get to help me with a little bit of some of the planning here. So we're going to try and do some global work here to see if we can get a little bit more information on some of the specific costs and timeframes, and that for some of the planning for the house. But there's so much more than the house involved here. And so Cape Breton Tea Company and the people working with us and the people buying the tea, they're your lifesavers. So, high five you.
Right.
Like, woohoo.
Right.
Uh,
And I,
yeah,
I just think about, as you're problem solving this first house, there are other buildings that have been built with these bricks, but for families that have not had the opportunity to build a house that is able to withstand some of these incredible storms, this is going to be a first opportunity. And once they figure it out and they know how it works, and the footprint of what the base of the house looks like and how the rooms need to work. So you were talking about the needs, for storage, but also the needs for separating the boys and the girls. And so how you get that basic footprint down so that other families then can also work with that similar footprint. And so it won't just be problem solving for one, it'll be problem solving for that whole village to be able to make a difference.
absolutely. Yeah. And everything is, how can we make a difference? How can we make a difference for this family? How can we make a difference for the congregation? Sometimes, it may be that it's maybe other families have a house, but maybe it's the widows in the community, the people who've lost um, that that person who was the income earner, and now there's a widow with the children, and there is no one who's earning that income anymore. So now, how do we pay it forward and figure out how we can help that person? Can we help them with figuring out how the community can make a keyhole garden so that they have food outside their door, help feed the family, because no one's helping to feed them anymore? Maybe they still have the thatched mud walls and roof for a house. So yeah, how do we make this, go beyond what we're doing with this family? What can we do to make it different? Because we know that as a nation, they just don't have enough. They just don't have the funds, and the government's the national government still hasn't got to the community where the Moyos live to deal with, the massive hurricane that happened a year and a half ago. And there's been, two or three other disasters that have happened since. So it's just not, it's not going to happen waiting for, government funding. They don't have we've already had insurance people and everything come through West Kelowna. They've looked at houses. The people have been supported immediately after the crisis happened. The Moyos still haven't seen anyone show up from when they lost their house. Well, it's almost 2 years ago now, probably, 20 months ago. They still haven't seen relief workers, government. They still haven't had that support. Here we've had it within days. We had community help immediately. We had government and insurance people showing up right away. There's already people who lost their homes. They're already working on rebuilding some of them. This is within a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's people around the world that it never happens. They may never rebuild.
Yeah.
You know, they're part of our community too.
Yeah.
You know, we're all humanity. So
Yeah.
somehow we have to say, I see you. You're not invisible. You know, we won't leave you behind.
Exactly. Um, where where can we send people now? So they've listened and they're thinking, how might I be able to make a difference? How might I want to reach out? What are some of the ways that we can do that?
Well, if I was on top of things, I would of course have this all updated in a blog or somewhere. I'll get there. Um, they can go to the Cape Breton Tea Company website through you,
So that's
which
Cape
you will have
Breton,
linked.
yeah, capebretontea for those people
Uh,
listening.
if you're in the Kelowna, West Kelowna, Okanagan area, you can see me. If you know me, you can just knock on my door, and I have it right here. Uh, Several of them.
Tea is right
If you're,
there. Yeah.
it's right here. Um, you can message me on Facebook or Instagram and arrange for me to send you the tea as well. I have it here, right here, and I can send it to you. If you order it through Cape Breton Tea Company and you're out in the BC area, and that's easier, then between Michelle and I, we will make sure that you get it. So, leave that up to technology and all that amazing stuff that we'll make sure that you get it. If you're, and don't think of the tea as just something that's good for the moyos, because the tea is good for you, right? We're looking at that the tea is something that you get something, whether it's for yourself or you get it for giving to someone else. That it can be a Christmas gift. It can be you know, yay, I love the new teacher at school gift. If you're going to be buying something for somebody anyway, then this is an awesome thing to buy and give. It's something you're spending that money anyway in buying it. You're also doing something that's helpful, but you get this in return. So that's another way to look at it. Or if you're just a tea drinker and you love to drink tea, which, yay
Or
mabu.
right, in Mabu for sure. But I'm also thinking about too when you have gatherings, because you might have an association meeting, you might have a club you belong to, you might have an activity that you're involved in where you actually do make tea, but you just put some generic tea into the cup or into the teapot. And instead of doing that, actually using this tea and then talk about the sense of community and what it means to even have this tea in your possession, and who else is being supported by drinking this tea.
And one of the places that really, I think, has an appropriate place is at whether it's a Bible study or a ladies guild or an after service church group. The Moyos are incredibly faithful. Their belief in God and in Christ has certainly brought them where they are. They pray daily. They certainly, when they heard about the fires here, their prayers, and they continue to be for us here and for the well-being of the first responders and people who've lost things here. They, even the little kids, get up, and before they're eating, before they're going to school, their prayers are for us, and to make sure that that their prayers and that God is with us. And that's a huge part of my relationship with them is our faith. and in growing in faith with them. And so it's very appropriate for anyone who is a person of faith to look at the tea and to look at the story and to consider that. We also have a GoFundMe, and we have had that for various concerns and to support them. And I believe you have that linked as well.
Yeah, and that's Stephen
There.
Moyo's Mission for Change on GoFundMe.
Yes. So some of the story is there, and I will get back to updating that. And that's my part of my steps to carry on with continuing to update that. And that doesn't get you the tea, although we could connect the tea to that as well if we wanted to. I suppose that's something we could add to it. It tells you a little bit of some of the background story as well, if you're interested to see that. And you're more than welcome, and we encourage you also to share if you're able to share there and see and family that way as well. So we appreciate and love any support that you're able to do. If there's any information that you're wanting to know about, the family or the story or what money is used for, I'm an open book about sharing that. Or if somebody's wanting some pictures of who is it that we're helping, there are some on the GoFundMe. I have some on my Facebook page, or send me a friend request and include in that who you are, so that I accept it. I know you're not a bot.
Yep, exactly.
And then I'm more than happy to share more of the story with you as well.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, we covered a lot of material for tonight, which is great. And this brings us for the end of September. So as people are thinking about their gift giving for the holiday season, and like you said, being able to bring around some of the community groups that you're already involved with, or ways that you might be giving, then we would love to be able to send out any packages that we can. And we will have an update for everyone at the end of October when we do, it's always the last week of the month that we release this podcast, Compassionate Living. So thank you so much, Charlene, for all that you're doing and that extra digging and the way that you ask the questions to help us find the way to help them. And I so appreciate you sharing this time.
And find ways to help people in your community. There's always somebody who's needing it, and it doesn't take much.
Exactly.
You'll feel great.
Excellent. So
Perfect.
Season 3 is devoted to the transformational process that happens when people reach into their authentic selves and then create magic. And our season does have different publications happening through the month. We hope they inspire you, empower you, and help you to consider living with your true heart's desire, with love and compassion for others at the forefront. Thank you for joining us. This is Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, and I'm wishing you the courage to face your own transformation for the well-being of those around you. Have a great day.